So,
Excuse me.
yep, we're good. We're all set.
If you're going to talk,
It's okay.
please go out in the hallway. I
It's
can't
okay,
hear.
okay. Everybody's settling down. We're gonna.
No, the people
I got it.
standing.
I don't have a. I don't use a gavel traditionally at these meetings. I don't want to start that process. Although I wouldn't mind a gong. I think we should. Anyway. All right. I'd like to welcome everybody to this evening's town board meeting of Monday, August 21st, 2023. We're going to begin the evening with an invocation from Councilmember Lavin.
Thank you, Supervisor. So this is our last town board meeting before Labor Day weekend. We are heading towards the final part of summer, I'm sorry to say, but it means the school year is just around the corner. And I just want to wish all of the students starting our UB campus or Damon here locally, as well as the many kids starting in our school districts, a safe return. And it's been a great summer all around, and thank you very much.
Okay. All right. Thank you. With that, I would ask everybody to please rise for a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I would ask our town clerk to please call the roll.
Drink the water wrong.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Supervisor Copa.
Here.
Deputy Supervisor Buckeye.
Here.
Councilmember Berger. Here. Councilmember Lovett. Drink water wrong. Sorry, went down
Present.
the way. And Councilmember Sugala.
Here.
Don't ask her to talk for a few minutes.
Understood. I'm going to start asking for roll call votes right away. Okay. With that, first item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from Monday, August 7th, 2023. A motion to adopt them as they appeared.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the first item on our agenda, we've got a number of public hearings, and I'm going to take them out of order just because prior to the meeting there was some discussion, and I know there's a lot of people who were here for Resolution 2023, Item 623. So on that resolution, after some conversation in work session, I think some general conversation and review of some items that the town board's seen since the official opening of the public hearing a couple weeks ago. There's a lot more information that's needed on this particular site, and instead of us as a board and everybody else trying to figure out hypotheticals, we're just going to ask for a few things. So I'm going to motion to adjourn the public hearing until the earliest would be September 18th. And I'm going to say the earliest of the 18th or pending these three items that are met, right? So whichever comes first. If these three items are all satisfied by the 18th, fine. If not, we're going to wait till these items are met. The first thing is the town board wants to see a stormwater mitigation plan for the site, which deals with the existing stormwater flow and future stormwater flow. We want to see some level of, I'm not going to call it a full traffic impact study, but I think we need to see a traffic analysis of what's going to happen on site, how vehicle movements are going to look. And the third thing is we really want the developer or their attorney to hold a meeting with the people within that 600 foot notice radius at the least, so that there's an effort to try to build some consensus about what has to happen on the site. Then I'm going to further that by saying the town board will then take responsibility for an action to renotice within 600 feet if this is coming back, which meeting this public hearing is going to be reopened on. So if it's reopened on the 18th or later, the town will renotice the original notice, group.
Supervisor?
Yes.
A couple people came in after you started. I just want to make sure they realize we're talking about the Eggert
This is
Road
1350
rezone.
Eggert Road rezoning petition. Again, rather than try to guess at hypotheticals, I'm making a motion to adjourn to either September 18th or, right, or later, as long as the three items that I mentioned are met: a stormwater mitigation plan, traffic analysis, and a meeting with the residents.
Second.
There's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
So the earliest it could come back is the 18th. Everybody within 600 feet will get renoticed. I'm sure, confident that they'll share it with their neighbors at that point. And I know the attorneys already talked about meeting with residents nearby, so I'm confident that they will figure that out and we'll see where it goes from there. Okay? All right. Thank you, everybody. The next item on the agenda is the originally scheduled first of our public hearings. It is Resolution 2023 709, 1501, 1551, Niagara Falls Boulevard rezoning. We'll figure that out. I'm going to motion to so there's you're here to present two resolutions, right? It's on 709 and on 710?
Correct.
And you're going to do a joint presentation?
That is correct,
Okay.
yes.
So I'm going to first motion to open the public hearing on 709, rezoning of 1501, 1551 Niagara Falls Boulevard.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. I'm going to simultaneously, can I do this? Simultaneously motion to open the public hearing on 710, which is 1561 and 1703 Niagara Falls Boulevard.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You don't have to present twice.
Thank you. Good evening, Supervisor, members of the board. Matthew Oates with Benderson Development. Here this evening requesting rezone approval for approximately 78 acres of land along Niagara Falls Boulevard from the Center 5 District. This is Boulevard Consumer Square, 64 acres of the request, and then what we refer to as Boulevard South, which is the TJ Maxx Plaza, which is about 14 acres. The site contains approximately 870,000 square feet of leasable space and about 3,880 square parking spaces. It is located on the east side of Niagara Falls Boulevard. It encompasses both the north and south sides of Romney Road, with North Bailey Avenue and Ridgely Road encompassing it to the north and then wrapping around to the east side. It is directly adjacent to the property that is being redeveloped for the Costco in the Dick's House of Sports that was previously rezoned to the shopping center district, which is what we're requesting this parcel get rezoned to. The reason we're requesting this is to allow for the continued and future redevelopment of both parcels. We have previously started the redevelopment with the TJ Maxx Plaza. As part of that redevelopment under the deep corridor, we had to obtain a number of variances to allow for that development to actually happen. So in looking at the proposed use for both these parcels, being in the shopping center district based on how they're developed is much more conducive to the continued redevelopment of these versus the Center 5 and the Deep Corridor 3. This will result in basically an overall large, about 140-acre shopping district that Benderson will own, and it will include the Costco, Boulevard Consumer Square, and also the Boulevard South project. They're all conducive and they're all interconnected as well. We believe the rezoning will have a positive impact on the town. It will allow us to have continued redevelopment, will allow us to bring new tenants, build new square footage, which will then increase the tax base for the town and have an overall positive impact. We went through the basis of findings in the LOI that we submitted as well. Project has previously been presented to the planning board. The planning board did issue a positive recommendation on both rezoning requests as well. And then happy to answer any questions that the town board has.
Okay. I mean, we've been dealing with parts and pieces of this, so this officially unifies everything under the same zoning.
Correct.
Okay, questions from this board?
I've seen this about 50 times.
I
I
know.
think I'm all set.
Anybody from, okay, so, questions or comments from members of the audience? Seeing none, I'm gonna motion to, back, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't see you, sir, come on, please come. you-
Whoa, whoa,
come-
whoa, whoa.
come
You have
back
to
up.
come to the microphone.
Yeah, sorry.
Name and address first, and then you can speak.
Sorry, I just have a question. You're zoning it from what to what?
Can you state your name and address
Michael
for record? I'm sorry.
Nygren?
Okay.
Sorry. And I just,
And your address for the,
118 Allenhurst.
Okay, thanks. Its current zoning is CTR 5, and Deep Corridor 3, which will allow for 5-story and 3-story mixed-use development on the site. Their request is for it to be zoned to SC. Is it SC? Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Shopping center, which
And
is the actual use of the site.
and we rezoned it from shopping center.
I got it. But, right, so it's going from it's going to shopping center, which matches the existing land use, basically, is what your request
It's going
is.
back to what it was.
Okay, anything further? Can I close the public hearing without taking action on seeker? I guess I can, right, because seeker will be a separate action hearing. Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna motion to close the public hearing on resolution 709 and the public hearing on 710.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So next meeting, there'll be a scheduled vote on both the seeker action and the rezoning.
Okay. Thank you very much. Have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is public hearing on resolution 2023-711, which is the 5226 and 5228 Main Street rezoning. I'm going to motion to open that public hearing at this time.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes, good evening Supervisor Culpa and council members. Sean Hopkins of the law firm of Hopkins, Storage and McCarthy on behalf of the applicant. Also with me is Tom Fox from Ellicott Development. We're here this evening in connection with the request to rezone 2 contiguous parcels located at 5226 and 5228 Main Street from GB General Business to TI4. I think everyone in the room probably knows the project site fairly well. On the left-hand side, you can see North Forest Road. Directly to the east is Wendy's at 5244 Main Street. KeyBank directly to the west at 5200 Main Street. Wendy's directly to the east at 5244 Main Street. And of course, the Taps Plaza at 5262 Main Street. These parcels were purchased by Ellicott Development approximately 5 or 6 years ago with exactly what we're proposing in mind in terms of mixed-use redevelopment. The site itself, the 2 parcels, consist of approximately 1.1 acres. That GB zoning has been in existence since 1976. It's important to note that the nearby contiguous parcels have that identical GB zoning. This is actually a downzoning, meaning in the existing GB zoning classification, we could do more intensive development than what we're proposing, and we'll show you in a second. And probably the best example of that is the GB zoning that exists today would allow a maximum building height of 65 feet. The proposed TI4 zoning, which is one of the town's mixed-use districts created in 2019, reduces that all the way down to 45 feet. So we have submitted a concept plan with our application. What we're showing in connection with the redevelopment of this site is a 4-story mixed-use building with first-floor commercial square footage of approximately 10,930 square feet, 30 upper-floor apartments. We are showing 67 parking spaces on site. One of the topics that took us extensive time to deal with was the need to provide an emergency access-only driveway onto North Forest Road, which you can see here. We've submitted a signed easement from the owner of that office building parcel. And then, as some of you are familiar, including the planning department and the supervisor, we went through numerous reiterations before we actually filed this application. We were previously showing a drive-through facility, some more intensive development, And based on the input received during that year informal review process before filing the application, we think we reached a consensus on this particular layout. These are conceptual color renderings prepared by Brian Slevar of Carmina Wood Design. You can see the emphasis is focusing on Main Street, making this pedestrian friendly, incorporating both vertical and horizontal relief in a diverse range of materials. One of the key benefits of rezoning this from GB to the mixed use districts is it does require review and recommendation by the Design Advisory Board, which of course includes professional architects on staff. We think this request is quite clearly consistent with the adopted bicentennial comprehensive plan. Specifically, we're in this circle, which is those parcels located on Main Street, just west of the village, along North Forest, between North Forest and Union. Designates this as a suburban center, as described on pages 334 and 336 of the comprehensive plan. And that's exactly what we're doing. Focus on bringing buildings closer to Main Street, less on-site parking, pedestrian friendly, upscale and mixture of architecture, et cetera, et cetera. It's also important to note that Figure 6 of the comprehensive plan, which is the land use plan for the entire town and predates Figure 6A, also denotes that this site is appropriate for commercial mixed use. Again, exactly what we're proposing. The planning board did review this during its meeting on June 15th and adopted a resolution by unanimous vote recommending the issuance of a negative declaration pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act and approval of the requested rezoning. I'm not going to go through the findings. They're set forth in great detail in the letter that Dan Howard provided you on behalf of the planning department. I do want to note one condition that was recommended by the planning board, and that's here, that pedestrian and vehicular access be provided between the subject sites in 5262-5274 Main Street, Tops Plaza. I want to note we don't control that parcel. That's owned by the Benchmark family, or the Benchmark group. We don't believe they'll probably be interested in granting that easement. However, if the town would be interested in reaching out and seeing if that request can be accommodated, we certainly would do that. I just want to make it clear we do not control whether or not they would grant that access. As a backup, if they wouldn't be willing to grant cross access, at the very least we'd like pedestrian access so the residents of this project, of course, can walk directly behind where they live to the Tops Plaza. The only other things I want to emphasize real quickly is, again, just like every rezoning, this is subject to an environmental review pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act. We've submitted very technical and very detailed documentation, including part 1 of the full environmental assessment form, cultural resource documentation, a geotechnical report, a traffic impact study, et cetera, et cetera. There are absolutely no wetlands on this site. There are no designated cultural resources. And as I indicated, the planning board did recommend the issuance of a negative declaration. Finally, I want to leave with 2 thoughts. Number 1, the board knows, but sometimes others don't know, that if and when you approve the requested rezoning, the review process is far from over. Then we have to prepare and submit fully engineered plans, and again, go for a review and recommendation by the town's Design Advisory Board and a public hearing and site plan approval from the planning board. So what we're simply asking you to do this evening is close the public hearing and schedule a decision date for one of your upcoming meetings, hopefully September 5th. And then, of course, Tom and I would welcome any questions or input that any of you may have. Thank you.
All right, first questions from this board. So, yep,
I had a question.
sure, Deputy Supervisor.
Yes, just looking at that diagram. So the building kind of goes more like front to back. And is there parking? Am I looking at this correctly? There's parking like on the side
Right.
of the building?
Yeah, so let me explain this, which is turned. So this is, of course, North Forest Road, which is to the west. Union Road would be down here, which is to the east. Wendy's, Key Bank, Tops Plaza. So because the parcel is much deeper than it has frontage, we've oriented the building so that the shorter side will be parallel with Main Street, but there is extensive parking provided on the easterly side of the building, and then of course there's additional parking on the back of the site. As I indicated, because it's a 4-story building, one of the key components is providing dedicated emergency access for an aerial truck within that fire district, and as such you can see that going all the way from North Forest all the way to Main. It is important to note that this will be gated.
And the hope would be that if Wendy's eventually redeveloped, that there would be something that would also view that access drive as like as a road condition, right?
Right, Wendy's as well as the adjacent parcel, which is, I believe, non-conforming, the Gerstner's Automotive.
See, you have control of those, Tom? All right, I mean, so the zoning allows for side yard parking. There is a screen right in front of the first vehicle slot, I believe.
Right here.
I know
Yeah.
you can't see it there, so there's a physical buffer, which makes this a much more pedestrian-centric option than a lot of what we've seen come before us before, so I'm happy with that direction.
So I do see the arrows in each direction, so there would be enough room for two-way traffic, even though you have the cars parked. There's like the roadway, there's enough clearance.
Yeah,
Will there be good sight lines? I mean, what if someone's pulling out and wants to go back on Main Street or such?
There will. So this two-way access aisle has the minimum required width of 28 feet. Typically, it would be 24 feet, but again, because it's a 4-story building, we have to accommodate a larger fire truck. So yes, it would easily accommodate that, and it would allow someone to back up, and then, of course, turn into Main Street. We all, of course, acknowledge at certain times of the day, it would be difficult to turn left out of the driveway, but generally speaking, you can almost always turn relatively easily to the west.
Okay. Another question, you said there are no wetlands, but are you going to have a basement to this building?
I'm going to let Tom Fox answer that, but
Tom Fox, Ellicott Development Company, just slab on grade. No basement.
Okay, thank you.
And you're up above the escarpment on
We
this?
are.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure, Councilman?
Sean, I have a couple of questions for you,
Sure.
and I'm not going to hold you to this. What kind of commercial space are you looking to pursue for the bottom floor?
well, so we were originally pursuing a restaurant with a drive-through facility. We actually had a signed letter of intent. That was not particularly well received by the planning department based on the preliminary plans, so we've eliminated that. We're not yet far enough along that we have any commercial tenants, but we envision hopefully some local retail. And what we've also seen in connection with these mixed-use buildings along Main Street is some higher-end office uses as well.
Okay. So can you give me a basic cost of apartments for your upper floor apartments? What are you thinking here?
Do you want, and it's tough to speculate these
No,
days,
I
but
get
go ahead,
it.
Tom, if you have some idea per
I'm
square
not going to
foot.
hold you to it.
On a
just your
rental
best.
rate basis,
Per square foot.
per square foot, we're probably going to end up probably in the $1.90 to $2 a square foot range. And the units range, at least initially in our blocking plans, from 900 to about 1,200 square feet in size.
Okay. And then my last question was, is there a timetable? I mean, we're here now, no votes have been taken, but in a world in which you get the green light, what are you talking about in timelines?
Well, so time frame, given that we still have a lot of work to do, meaning fully engineered plans, design advisory board, site plan approval, under the best case scenario, if you approve the rezoning at your next meeting, we probably wouldn't be in a position to finalize those approvals till January or February of next year. And subject to where we're at in terms of the economic climate, the goal would certainly be to begin construction next spring.
Okay.
Okay.
Tom, how long would this take approximately?
It'd be total construction period 12 to 18 months. But yeah, I totally agree with the spring start, given the climate and everything else and the approvals in front of us. But yeah, probably 12 to 18 months in total. So, and sometime maybe mid-25.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Any comments from the public on this project? Seeing none, I'm going to motion to close the public hearing, set a decision date for September 5th.
Second.
5th, right? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay, the next items on the agenda are, resolution 712 and 713, which were a seeker determination on 2350 Sweet Home Road, and the adoption of an adoption to amend the Declaration of Restrictions. So, the town board the town board was copied on, a memo from Mr. Hopkins representing Essex Homes, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, I'm a home builder. And I received that yesterday. My intent is to suspend that in as a communication this evening, and I would like to move to adjourn both of those items to the September 5th agenda as well.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Are we going to do the suspension now or at the end?
We'll suspend at the end with communications.
Okay.
So, I want that to be part of the public record, and I think that, given the amount of attention at public hearings, that everybody has a right to see that posted, so.
Yes, I know. I was just trying to figure out where.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is public expression. It's an opportunity for residents to comment on matters involving in Amherst, other than those pertinent to public hearings tonight. So we'll open up, motion to open public expression with a 3-minute time limit at this time.
Second.
All in favor? We do have a list, 2 lists. So the first speaker that's signed here is Pam Incontro. Did I pronounce that correctly? And if you would, please come and just restate your address for the record, or state your address for the record.
Sure. Pam and Contro, 59 Avalon Drive.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I'm just coming to
Can
address the
you
board.
put the microphone down so we can hear you?
Yes, I'm going to address the
Not that
board,
close.
not that close, regarding, we've had 30 streetlights out in our neighborhood since before Memorial Day. It's been over 90 days. We've done all the online forms. We sent a letter to the board, which I did. We sent it in July. Just got a reply from Ms. Bucky. Thank you. But I'm calling because we're very concerned that it's been 90 days with no communication and nothing. The lights still aren't fixed. Now, we had another resident from Ridgewood, which was one of the affected streets, who was here for another issue. She talked to Chris in engineering. So now I did talk to Chris this morning, and they said they're talking to National Grid, and they're hoping to have it fixed by Friday because they're waiting to get fuses. So hopefully this will be all done, but I'm hoping the board will look at your systems, because residents shouldn't be calling every day for 90 days and not get any response whatsoever. We weren't getting it from National Grid, we weren't getting it from the town, the highway department. That's why we sent the letter with just the Avalon Drive signatures. So we'd ask that you look at your systems, because we should at least get some sort of update as to what's going on. We've been in total darkness since Memorial Day in our streets.
So I agree with that. The town is, not just because of this issue, but because of a couple issues, looking to switch our.
To LEDs?
Well, we are switching LEDs, yes, but we are internally developing a 311 system, which would allow for a feedback loop, so that residents could see where their comment stands and who's addressed it. We're not anywhere near ready to go live with that yet, but that system is a software fix that we're working on implementing currently. We're working with a vendor to figure out how that will work. Irregardless, I apologize for the lack of back communication. I think I'll apologize. The town is new to light ownership and has some kinks to work out while we have these contractors doing the light replacement. So with regards to your particular situation, looks like pole 7R has a required National Grid fuse. That's not one of ours. That's something Grid has to replace.
Can I want to get
that's
one
gonna be-
step ahead before what you're talking about.
Go ahead.
When we're notified of a large number of lights out, there's a regular meeting to review the status of the project. And at those meetings, the conversion, at those meetings, it is then referred to the appropriate contractor to go out and investigate. They found that there was a broken line. They repaired the line. The challenge is to get Grid to come out and change the fuse. We've connected with the right person, we think, who has given us his word that it will be fixed. But I can tell you, before we took over the lights, there were complaints with Grid that could take a year before we could get things fixed. But we are on them, I can assure you, And once we had some emails and better contact information, Chris sent out emails giving updates, but he can't email 50 people. He emailed the person who sent the petition.
Oh, I'm that person who sent the petition, and I didn't get an email from Chris. It was Barbara on Kingsgate, because their lights went out actually just about 2 to 3 weeks ago.
Wait a minute.
I'm
He
not Kingsgate,
copied- He
Ridgewood.
copied me on the email to you. I don't know what happened, so I apologize, but he emailed you.
Okay.
Maybe he read the email
I
wrong.
got CC'd on one that Barbara did just this last week.
Okay.
So, but that was after 60 days of people filling out your online form with the Highway Department, me calling National Grid weekly, because the National Grid had a glitch too, which I'm sure you're aware of, which they were taking the complaints and saying it would be repaired and didn't have any system to tell us that it was sold to the town. They weren't doing it. You guys didn't have a system to let residents know. So basically, we've all been trying to get it addressed with no idea what's going on. So if what you're saying is true and you're going to develop that system, that's really what we're asking, and to get our lights fixed.
We actually have developed in the interim a tracking system to keep track of the calls that come in, or really ideally is filling out the, I don't remember what we're calling it, but the light outage form online.
Right.
And that gets tracked.
Can someone contact all the people who've been reporting on that line for the past, it's 30 lights, but that's like hundreds of homes. And none of us have received anything except Barbara and I now have the response from Chris, and I got a response from
Chris
Spucky.
asked you and the other person to please share that.
I'm contacting him Friday. I don't see the people on Bennington that have the lights off.
I'm going to ask Lisa from my office to figure out who has put in questions to us, and we'll work through that.
Thank you, because just some response so we know what's going on. So we don't bug you, but we know it's getting addressed, because for a while it was falling through the cracks everywhere. And just so you know, we have had thefts of vehicles, we've had people up and down our
Understood.
streets, and we need those lights for safety.
We need to get it fixed,
All right,
yes.
thank you very much.
Thank you. This problem isn't just the Avalon Ridgewood area, Bennington area. It is, sporadic then throughout other parts of the town. So it is something that we're actively engaged on, but I appreciate your bringing it again to our attention, seeing it through. The next speaker, so I've got Jeff Walker and Ray Volp, but they were both for Eggert.
They both left.
They both left. So the next is Eric Goldberg. You're here. Come on forward. And Eric, please state your name and address for the record.
Sure. Eric Goldberg, 298 Amherst.
Okay. Go ahead.
And I'm here just to voice our general concern. We are with the Stop the Metro group, and we've had, to date, 3 meetings. And as we've had our meetings, our group has expanded and gotten larger. At our last meeting, we had an NFTA representative, the project manager, actually. And if it would be all right, I'd like to drop off a brief synopsis of what was said at the meeting and questions and answers.
Here.
The meeting lasted about an hour and a half, with a Q&A at the end of it. There's a lot of concerns. I know I'm only given 3 minutes. There are a few other people here who would speak to you about it. I find myself, when I talk to my neighbors up and down the boulevard and then Tonawanda side, that I end up talking for 20 minutes to 40 minutes to an hour about all our concerns. But again, I realize I only have 3 minutes, so I'd like to at least discuss one of the items that's a major concern of ours.
Sure.
And that is, you're starting going down, this is the proposal that NFTA had shown us on their routes for the rail system. They'd be going down Kenmore Avenue and then up the boulevard. As they go up the boulevard, they're going to have a rail in 2 different directions, a coming and a going towards the north towns and then going out. And they're going to drop Niagara Falls Boulevard, Route 62, down to 1 lane in each direction. That's what we understand it, what their proposal is going to be. We had known that there was going to be alternative proposals to that, and that was going to be a rapid bus system that we're not even quite sure that they even are going to hand over to the Federal Transportation Authority. We're not even quite sure about that. But in the meantime, and on page 2 of this letter, 2 of my notes, page 2 of it, is a letter from a volunteer fireman, an EMS specialist, who wants to talk about what it would be like on Niagara Falls Boulevard with 2 lanes. As you can imagine, it's one of the busiest routes in the North Towns, that's for sure. And he envisions that his response time will be diminished incredibly, and as well as what if there was an accident along the way in stopping traffic, et cetera, if there is a rail accident, et cetera. Now, there is also talk from the NFTA that they're going to raise the trail bed itself a few inches. I'll give you 6 inches, but he said it could be more than 6 inches, which unto itself would be a problem as a turning lane, people turning off and emergency vehicles getting through. So it all became a major concern. This is just one aspect that we want to speak to you about as a group. Currently, we have a petition with 1,100 signatures. We worked our way from Niagara Falls Boulevard, the Kenmore side, only up to the Eggert side. And that's 1,100 people on both sides of Amherst and the town Tonawanda. Again, there'll be a couple other speakers, and they'll speak to you about what it's going to do to the businesses along there. Now, and I'll summarize everything that I can say about this in that it seems to me that every decade this issue about putting a rail up is regurgitated through the whole systems, through the NFTA, especially the NFTA. And I realize everybody wants to reach out to the University of Buffalo, and the University of Buffalo is a big pusher behind this, although they're quietly doing this behind the scene.
I don't know that I mean, you just said that on a microphone. I don't know that anybody has any evidence of that. UB's maintained that they're going to continue to operate their bus
Buses.
system regardless
But
of
they are-
whether or not there's
that's
transit.
interesting, because that's not what we were not told that, but we weren't also told that that was the case, that the
So
bus system
I'm
would
just-
continue.
Right,
Okay, that's fine. That's your take on it, but again, we had the NFTA project manager, we had him up there for an hour, and as he explained, this is running past the University of Buffalo and going towards Autobahn, and I know from that section, the people in Autobahn aren't very happy people either about what's going to pass through. Now, I realize there's a lot of developers up there and developments that have a lot of lease sales and for rent sales going on currently.
So what are you asking from the town board?
I'm asking for the town just to be open-minded and listen to your citizens about how they feel about this whole subject now I realize this is all preemptive because right now they're in their environmental study.
I just want to make, so the town doesn't have, right, we don't have an immediate say as to whether or not this happens. This is like somebody building a thruway.
Understandable.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're all clear. We're not a,
Yeah,
okay.
that's understandable. And the same thing could be said about the Tonawanda side, like that. We understand that.
we're a little-
But we want to, but you do have a say in whether you want something or you don't want something in this, because
Well,
it's
yes.
going to come out of New York State funding as well as the $1 billion it's going to cost that the federal government is going to pay for. So as, we are the citizens and we are affected by this, even though it's Route 62, and I believe that's Erie, that's not an
New York
Erie
State
County
road.
road?
It's a state,
It's a
well,
state.
so Kenmore Avenue is a county road. Niagara Falls Boulevard is a state route.
Right. But you as,
Maples,
yeah.
Maples,
So, as concerned citizens, and I mean a large portion of concerned citizens who are going to be affected by this directly, we just wanted to come up and share this with you because I'm sure that you have some sort of an influence, light,
No.
heavy or not,
Well,
none. Okay.
So we don't, I'll say, and I can't speak for all the town board on this. I'll say from my own perspective as a supervisor, administratively, I certainly have concerns, as everybody should have concerns. This is a big proposed project, and it certainly has an opportunity to be done correctly or done incorrectly. I would think, from my perspective, I think we definitely need improved transit access. But transit comes in a lot of formats. And so I think the conversation, is, what I would ask you, you know, if you're here kind of talking about your group, you're on a record, you're you know, so, you know, what does what's the organization called?
Well, it's Stop the Metro.
Stop Metro.
Right.
So
We have all signs up
what
for all
do
of our- okay.
what would Stop Metro want? Is it just stop projects entirely? Is it
No,
is it
no, of course not. Well, excuse me for interrupting.
That's fine.
That is not what we want by any means. What we want is, what we were told initially is that the NFTA should look at various methods of transportation to get out towards that area, towards up Maple, down the boulevard, Kenmore Avenue. And our impression was at this meeting was they had sent in an initial, very minor proposal, and the government brought it back and said, look, you really need to look at a rapid bus system, which is used in the Bronx. You know, faster light changes, faster buses that travel during busy times, et cetera. And apparently, they sort of, it appears that they've kind of ignored that and rushed immediately for the gold bar, and that would be the transit, the bus, the rail.
So and again, I don't know a lot about where you are in the process of, I know that it sounds like you're meeting with the NFTA and you're doing some fact-finding
Right.
stuff. But what I would encourage you and anybody in the organization to work on is a very distilled message. We would like to see this, right? What is that? And, you know, I mean, I'm not
Well,
telling you, hey, go advocate for BRT, but I'm saying but you should have,
Well, we do.
Okay.
I'm again only allowed to speak for the 3 minutes. Give you a
I've
drug
already
thing.
let
I
you
could
go
sit
over
down.
because
I
of
know.
the back and
I
forth
know.
stuff.
And again, there's going to be other people that are going to follow me, and they're going to talk a little bit about it with statistics, et cetera. So just the general overview. I was not aware that you pointed out something I find interesting is that the Amherst board. Now, I'm not saying you're not willing to help us in what we want to achieve, or at least just help us general overall in this, is just that you don't have any power to do that.
we don't have any authority power in this matter, right? I mean, the organizations with authority, NFTA is a ward of the state, so the agency's authority lies in New York State.
Okay.
And this is a federal approval, so
Right.
it goes to federal and state approval. Like I say, it's akin to building an airport or a thruway.
But if they are taking, if it comes time, and it was explained to us, and we did see the map, and it was explained by an NFTA official, that they are going to have to be taking through eminent domain, through purchase, 3 feet land here, 6 feet land over on this side of that. Is that true?
That I don't know what their map looks like, but
Right.
again,
He
that
came
would
right out and told
that
us.
would be the NFTA that would be having to commence that. So the NFTA answers only to the state, or in this case, because of the nature of the project, to the federal government.
Okay.
I'm not trying to shirk it. I mean, but like you
I'm
can't.
just trying to find out, like, what obviously you're saying that your responsibility in this, and we are, taxpayers in Amherst, Eggertsville. I just want to know is like what your limitations are, and you're explaining it to me. You're basically saying it's more
We
involvement
don't have
with the
any
state.
authorizing capacity, and we don't have any ability to say we're going to stand in front of this project or block it in any way, shape, or form,
Yeah.
or that they need to conform to some Amherst standard. We can make requests, but we're essentially like a large stakeholder, just like any citizen or business in this. We own some property that they would have to take, that I'm not keen about having to separate from, but there's things that we can ask for. The authority in the rail lies with the authority it's like the power authority. They're an authority. So much like a utility company or New York State DOT or a federal aviation group, the NFTA, we don't get. I don't get it right. We have to fight to keep express buses every however often, right? We don't have authority to establish their bus routes.
Right, I understand that.
So there isn't any impacted authority. Like we don't
But when it's a large project like this, that does involve,
Of course they ask, and
citizens.
it's similar to Tom Tonawanda, and the city of Buffalo, hey, you have your opportunity to comment on it, but on the food chain, we're here.
Okay.
And,
Okay. We're lower than you.
They're
Not
here.
really.
They're here.
Where you are.
Well, I mean, they wanted all this informational, they were
Yeah.
throwing out, we're having all these informational meetings, et cetera, and unfortunately, COVID struck, and these informational meetings were,
Okay,
I'll let you go with that.
I get, I want to make sure, because somebody came last meeting and spoke, and I can see all the rail stuff starting here, but, at some point, I've got to, it's town-based topics here,
Sure.
and whether I want to admit it or not, I don't have the capacity to change that direction. So we really got to be thinking about
A different level, to
right place for
attack.
the meeting,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, well, thank you for your time.
No problem, thank you. All right, Chuck Garino?
Notes here. Chuck Reno. My home address is 16 Wood Acres. My business address is 839 Niagara Falls Boulevard. The previous conversation was a little enlightening. Thank you for that. I think we all want to be heard and get on the record as to what's going on. I'm a business owner. I own Master Garino's Taekwondo on the Boulevard. And I'm assuming the board, your job is to kind of look out for the residents and the businesses as best you can and take in information. So we were told, we went to a meeting with the NFTA, and we were told that they were looking at all three proposals of A, doing nothing, B, giving some sort of an updated bus system, maybe possibly having a dedicated lane for that, and then the light rail. And every article that they've been interviewed in the newspaper has been about the light rail. Businesses will not survive if they put a light rail through there. And a lot of people can argue that, but they don't really care about the smaller businesses. My business will definitely close. I'm about 7 months away from paying off my building. I've got it where I want it, but at this point, if they actually do what they're going to have to do, I'm going to have to move and sell the building. This is how I feed my family. This is how I'm going to put my kid through college. And when we were talking, the FTA said, don't worry, they're going to have access to your building during construction. Right. I mean, I avoid Sheridan Drive right now just when they're trying to put a sewer in or a pipeline in. There's nothing that's going to stop people from going up, avoiding that traffic and going to a different martial arts school. Hector's Hardware, my buddy up the street, they're going to go to, and they'll just go to Value or Lowe's to get away from this construction. They get the funding from taxes like people like us, and the entities like the NFTA, they get grants from the government, as well as, I'm sure they're using internal funds as well. But if this passes or works or fails, it doesn't matter to them. They're going to have a paycheck and they're going to go home and feed their families. I will not. So in the interest of time, I'll just try to go through some things. They want to have just 2 lanes on the left and right side of the street. And when I asked them, I said, well, how are you going to remove the snow? And he just looked at me and he had no answer. I said, what are you going to do when you have a breakdown in that lane and you got to get traffic through? He said, well, we're considering also putting in turnoffs. I'm like, well, where are you going to get the property for that? They're going to have to take our property again. Emergency vehicles are not going to be able to get through if there's a breakdown. During construction, there's going to be problems like radon emissions. There's going to be all sorts of things that we all know about, foundations cracking, things that are going to affect us in a very negative way. Obviously, if there's only 2 lanes on the boulevard, the rerouting of traffic into the neighborhoods and our wonderful neighbors are going to be affected negatively, and we all know property values are going to go down. We were told at the meeting that part of this is because it's inconvenient for the UB students to have to transfer from a subway to a bus. So we're going to spend $1.5 billion to avoid an inconvenience and possibly put a bunch of people out of work. I don't think this is a good shot at anything. I believe the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over again and expecting it to be different. Buffalo suffered downtown. The NFTA went there, they built, all the businesses died, and they left it a mess, and it's up to the city to take care of it now. I think Millersport Highway makes a better idea. It's wider, there's less disruption to have Millersport done, but they said that they didn't like that decision, that route, because they can't help boost the businesses by going that route. This is not going to boost any business on the boulevard as it is. Why not just run more buses? They don't even run a good bus schedule now. They cancel buses all the time. You know, in other states and other areas of the world, they have beautiful bus lines with heated bus stations. They have apps that tell you when the bus is going to get there exactly on time. There's a lot way to do this with all the better ways to do this without disrupting. So you can keep it as it is. I don't even think they should have a dedicated lane for the buses. There's enough traffic going through. If you ran the buses properly, they could handle all the traffic. So all I'm saying, I know now, I realize that you have less control than I would like you to have. I have less control than I would like to have. But the NFTA has been a total failure when it comes to light rail, and there's nothing that's going to make this any different than them getting a lot of money and construction companies getting a lot of money. And the people here and my buddies are going to go out of business. And for me, I can't even move out the way I'd like to move. I just opened a school in Williamsville. I can't go that way, so I can't get close to that school. I'm going to have to go into Tonawanda and leave Amherst, which I don't want to do. I love the neighborhood that I'm in. It's very unique. It's diverse. I don't want to have to move because I really think that I have been able to affect a lot of people in a great way there and build a business. So all I'm saying is that if you have any input when it comes time, that you consider that either do nothing's probably not the answer, but do something that is less disruptive, better buses, better technologically run, and maybe not digging up everything and putting us out of business. And I thank you for your time. I really do.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And there was a Michael also on Niagara Falls Boulevard. It's on the second sheet. Somebody else? Anybody else? Oh. You and then you. Okay.
I have some handouts too. My name is Michael Nygren, 118 Allenhurst Road. So in the handouts that I just passed out is some historical information about the Metro Rail. I'm just going to move through this quick because I kind of want to address a little bit what you said to my colleague over there. So on this first page here, this is all referencing old news. I don't know if maybe some of you were around for this, but this was 1986. This first article on the front here is kind of like buyer's remorse about the main line. Basically, first highlight I think is important is that they quote there's 23,000 riders, daily riders, and that number is greatly reduced now to about 10,000 riders, 13,000 riders. The second was that they were deeply troubled financially from the expense of building the rail, and they were not able to operate it. So their first mode of operation was to impose a transit tax, and we have that today still, transit tax to help them with the operations. And then the third highlight on that page is up at the top in the chart, and you can see that bus costs are far cheaper than using a train. So I thought that was interesting. This next page here was the cost overruns of the project. You can see that at every single station they had difficulties. So they say it's $1 billion, or more likely it's going to be like $2 billion. This third sheet here, two-way Main Street traffic to return in July. You can read about the plight of the owners on Main Street, where the NFDA tells them we'll do everything in our power to make sure businesses have access during the construction. It's exactly what they told us in the meeting a week ago. And here in this other highlight, you can see that didn't happen. They said, what are we supposed to do for 3 years? Go fishing? So, I mean, this is the same story all over again. Now, and this last argument here is, let's see here. So all the businesses essentially went out of business, except for the M&T building. That was the only thing operating at that point. And in this article by James Fink in Business First, 2017, it shows that its businesses were just starting to come back when they reintroduced automobiles through the Cars Sharing Main Street program. And so this article was dated 2017, so that's 31 years it took the businesses to come to where they are today. So that's why I'm saying this is very destructive. The whole idea about building this Metro Rail up the Niagara Falls Boulevard, you'll lose 100 businesses, and then maybe they will gain after 100 businesses. It's a zero-sum game. You say that you don't have any control. Well, we don't have any control either then. But you are our representatives. You are our voice. So we're coming to you here to ask for your help. That's why we are here. We're here to ask for you to be our voice, to say what we are concerned about. Now, right now, the process is in what's called a NEPA phase, which means that the NFTA is required by law to go out to the community to get our feedback, to see whether or not this project is viable for our community. So we are trying to explain to them that it is dangerous in every way. And that letter that you have there is from a firefighter who says it's dangerous. Lives will be lost from this plan. So we need you, or we're asking you, to reflect our views that this is a dangerous plan and that we do not, the residents feel that it's not a viable plan in the form that they are presenting it. And like my colleague said at the meeting, they were not serious about bus at all. Now, I did do a little research on what you told me last week. You said there is no transportation to the court system. There is transportation to the court system. There's a bus station at the corner of Forest and Millersport. Now, you have to walk a little bit, but that's to be expected in any mass transit system. You don't get dropped off right at your destination. You have to walk a little bit. Even in New York, you get dropped off at a metro station, you have to walk a few blocks to get there. Granted, 15 minutes is kind of far. In Buffalo, that is kind of far. Well, we can always ask the NFTA to extend another stop out. But they will tell you that they don't have the ridership to do that. They will tell you that there isn't the ridership to warrant that. That's what they will tell you if you ask them. You're welcome to ask them.
Sir, so with all due respect, this town board has asked for that stuff.
Okay.
As a town, we've said we need direct access. It's not okay for people to walk from North Forest and Millersport to our court facility, our senior center, our library, and our police station in inclement weather in this area.
And what did they tell you?
And they told us no. So, I understand what you're asking. I maintain a certain level of fatigue and frustration when it comes to NFTA items because of where we sit in terms of being able to have a representational dialogue with those. So you do have elected representatives to whom those organizations report. The NFTA is appointed seats. They're appointed by whom? The county legislature gets appointments. There's state appointments. You have county officials, you have elected state officials and federal officials. So my question back to everybody who's here tonight is, and it's okay if you haven't yet, but have you started to contact congressional members and state senate and state assembly about the same issues, the governor's office?
We do.
If you have, that's fine. I'm saying, but, you're right now, again, where the town sits in relationship to this, you could spend 3 minutes of dialogue here. I would tell you, you're probably better off on the phone with 3 minutes with somebody who can actually have some sway or control. Because when we have gone to the NFTA with things, we what we get is pushback about simple stuff like, can you put an enclosed bus stop at this corner? Or can you move your bus stop because its alignment to an intersection on Niagara Falls Boulevard is not good? So
What is the reason they told you why they couldn't do those things?
there's hundreds of reasons. I'm saying, all I'm trying to do is, again, reiterate that, the process here is we are extremely limited when it comes to having any say over an authority. People ask me all the time, can you do anything about the fact that the airport's been redirected over Snyder and Williamsville? No, I can't. I mean, but we can't. The NFTA and the Federal Aviation Authority tell them where they're bringing planes while they're doing runway work. It's not our call. We're overrided by an authority. And if that, I don't know how to explain it any more than that. You're used to the town having final say on land use and zoning. And in this case, just like Niagara Falls Boulevard and the pedestrian fatalities that were happening, we were beholden to New York State DOT. We can't change the boulevard. I can't physically, we're not allowed, it's not ours. And the NFTA isn't ours. It's not ours to change. It's a higher government body. And that's something you have to pursue at a higher level.
We will be pursuing that on a higher level, but we hope that you also will voice our concerns as well. That you will.
This town board continues to voice a lot of concerns on the matter. The subject again here is, so I don't want to debate. I'm not saying, hey, we're not going to have opinions down the road. I'm just stating that, that the thought that the town could actually take an action subject to this is misplaced. That's all. Okay. Anybody else? Sure. Please come forward. State your name and address for record.
Moser Goldberg, 298 Ellenhurst Road.
We need to be able to hear you.
Oh.
I can't even hear you.
Anna Moser Goldberg, 298 Ellenhurst
Thank you.
Road, Eggertsville, New York, 14226. I just wanted to point out one point that the gentleman from the NFTA said. He said that UB wants to switch the onus of the cost of the rep transit that they have, their Stampede buses, from the students to the taxpayers. And that was one of the sticking points in my mind. I have a college student, but I don't feel that I have to pay for every college student. And I just think that that is a big point, that maybe you don't have control over the boulevard, but maybe you have control with regard to UB pushing their costs on
We
to the
have
taxpayers.
absolutely
no,
no
I'm sorry,
control over anything SUNY does.
Right.
Well,
Working
and
with UB is like working with the Vatican within Rome. They answer to a higher authority.
I write to Kathy Hochul.
So the reality
17 times
is
a week. And I write to our congressmen, I write to all of the representatives, and Kathy Hochul is the only one who has responded to me.
okay.
And just thanking me for my input or my feelings on this matter, but this train is going to just be catastrophic for people on the boulevard, people who live behind the boulevard, people who live in the Autobahn district. And I just wanted to let you know that they're really trying to phase out Stampede and put it all on us.
Okay. I appreciate your thoughts on that, and thank you for sharing them. I'm not going to pretend that we have any authority in the matter. I will say that as a town board, this town board, and the immediate prior town board, when our now town clerk was seated, have very specifically pushed a lot of effort on reinvestment in the Eggertsville community, and we want to see a thriving Eggertsville community.
So do I. I live there.
All right, well, thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have any? Sure, please come forward.
Come forward so you can speak after him. No, seriously, come stand.
All right, please state your name and address to record.
Council members, can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Yeah.
My name is Joe Carden, 45 Danbury Lane in Williamsville. I've addressed the board a while ago regarding the Ellicott Creek Dam
Yep.
and hoping that the gates would never go in again. And Mr. Copeland, I know you and the board have extended a hand to the village of Williamsville to do the study, and I haven't been around for a while. I just want to know how any progress being made
The
on
village actually pursued a grant and received a grant to participate in or to commence the next level of that study. I haven't heard how that's gone yet, but we're waiting for the village's engineers are working on it now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate all your help.
Sir, please come forward. I know you've been patient. Again, just name and address for record.
Hi. Bob Dirtle, 92 Chateau Terrace, Amherst. Article in Buffalo News the other day saying Amherst backs a new Costco store, Dick's, Delta Sonic, and big win for Benderson. Doesn't say a win for Amherst or for the citizens of Amherst, but for Benderson.
I don't write the headlines or the Buffalo
Yeah,
News.
I know you don't, but if the perception is that Benderson owns Amherst, which ties in with a few other things tonight, with the, Benderson wanting to get land rezoned on Niagara Falls Boulevard. You have small business owners worrying about their business. I'm sure that Benderson will benefit highly with this rezoning and the mass transit that would go down that road. I just hope the town sticks up for the small people as well as they do for Benderson. Another line states it'll create more than
Ironically, the zoning envisioned a shopping center that was further away from something that would benefit from mass transit than the zoning that they replaced. But yes, thank you.
Okay, another line states it'll create more than 1,800 parking spaces. Well, maybe they could run a shuttle to the former Squire Shop restaurants that Benderson's lawyer said won't be built because there's no parking spaces. That building's supposed to be mixed use, but Benderson's rep says no parking, so we can't, do restaurants. Maybe that loophole needs to be fixed to protect the citizens of Amherst from buildings that aren't going to be what they're proposed to be. This goes hand in hand with a letter from Benderson's lawyer saying that he has never known the town to delay an application based on community opposition. So please enlighten us as to why Benderson gets to continue to benefit while the taxpayer of Amherst get the short end of the stick. And are we paying for all the road work for all these projects? And is Benderson getting any tax breaks? Thank you.
So I will comment now after, no, there are no tax breaks on the Costco or the Delta Sonic projects or the Dick's projects. And they're in fact paid $1.5 million in mitigation fees up front and then adding the signals themselves. Okay, anybody else have any comments? Seeing none, I'm going to move to close public expression, return to the regular agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to motion to, I'll ask the clerk to please read this evening's consent agenda.
Supervisor Copa, 1. Deputy Supervisor Buckeye, 1. Town Attorney, 3. Town Clerk, 1, 2, 3. Comptroller, 1. Contract Compliance, 1, 2, 3, 4. Engineering, 1. Highway, 1, 2. Human Resources, 1, 2, 3. Planning, 1, 2. Police, 1, 2. Sewer Plant, 16, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Youth and Recreation, 1, 2, 3. Communications, 1 was referred to Planning and record to Resolution 2023-623. 2 was the consent, 3 referred to attorney, 4 is consent, 5 is referred to attorney, and 6 referred to attorney. Thank you.
A motion to adopt this evening's consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next item on the agenda is Resolution 716, Evergreen Street Lighting District. It's a bond resolution in the amount of $1,350,000 to complete that project. I will motion to adopt the seeker findings associated with the new lighting project.
Second.
All in favor? Next, I'm going to motion to adopt a bond resolution to add the Evergreen Lighting District. Yep. Oh, I'm sorry.
Number 2.
Yeah. Next, I'm going, okay, so does that have voice vote though, or just the bond authorization? The final order is too? The final order is also voice vote? Okay, so next I'll motion to adopt the final order authorizing the extension of the lighting district to incorporate Evergreen subdivision.
Second.
And I would ask our town clerk for a voice vote on that, please.
Supervisor Copa?
Yes.
Deputy Supervisor Buckeye?
Yes.
Councilmember Berger?
Yes.
Councilmember Lavin? And Councilmember Zucala?
Yes.
Next, I would motion to adopt the bond resolution authorizing the issuance of the $1.350 million serial bonds for the above referenced town improvement project.
Second.
And I would ask our town clerk for a voice vote, please.
Supervisor Copa?
Yes.
Deputy Supervisor Buckeye?
Yes.
Councilmember Berger?
Yes.
Councilmember Lavin? And Councilmember Zucala?
Yes.
Next item on the agenda is Resolution 717, it's the electrical vehicle charging stations. It's a bond resolution in the amount of $200,000. I'm going to first motion to adopt the seeker findings associated with the project.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, I'm going to motion to adopt the bond resolution associated with the project.
Second.
On the question, I would ask our town clerk for a voice vote, please.
Supervisor Copa?
Yes.
Deputy Supervisor Buckeye?
Yes.
Councilmember Berger?
Yes.
Councilmember Lavin?
Yes.
And Councilmember Zucala?
Yes.
So this is it's actually a much bigger project than what's listed there. With our bonding, we end up with sizable match from NYSERDA to provide the vehicle charging stations, which are going in a number of town locations.
And we also have some grants from National Grid as well.
Okay, we have a suspension item this evening. I'm going to motion to go off agenda for purposes of suspending in one communication.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we have that on, okay, perfect. I'm going to motion to receive and refer communication to town planning board, town attorney.
The planning department.
Planning department, town attorney, and ask the town clerk to please file this along with the previous public hearing in which it was requested.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And a motion to return to regular agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And a motion to open a second round of public expression.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody have anything else? Seeing none, I'm going to move to close public expression.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And a motion to adjourn the evening's board meeting.
Second.